to you from the Spit Studios in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. This is the Spit Sports Show. Lots to get to today, Thursday night, which means a football game is happening tonight. As I mentioned in a previous podcast, we don't have that many great Thursday nighters coming up for the next couple weeks. Tonight is Giants versus San Francisco, where I believe San Francisco are 12.5-point favorites. So I don't expect this one to be particularly close. However, I will still be watching to see what Daniel Jones does. But today we're talking about another primary running quarterback, Justin Fields. He's been the story of the NFL because of the comments he made about his coaching and just his situation in general in Chicago. So to quote him directly, he said, could be coaching, I think. At the end of the day, they are doing their job when they are giving me what to look at. But at the end of the day, I can't be thinking about that when the game comes. I prepare myself throughout the week, and then when the game comes, it's time to play free at that point. Thinking less and playing more. So in sports, the casual fan just watches the games, enjoys it, talks about some plays with their buddies later, and move on. But if you're in depth about sports like I am and a bunch of my friends are, you know that there's always a story behind comments and behind play. If someone's playing bad, there's usually a story behind it. So I think I figured out the story of Justin Fields. So he came into this league as the 10th overall pick to the Bears, a typically dysfunctional franchise with some of the most inconsistent ownership, I will say, in the NFL. Also came in with a brand new GM and a new defensive head coach. He came into this league with a weak O-line and below average weapons. To say below average on both of those is honestly being nice to Chicago. Their offensive personnel was flatly a joke when he came into the league. So when he first began starting as a rookie, he had no time. He was basically just scrambling for his life on 2 out of 3 plays, it seemed like. His O-line couldn't protect him. His receivers couldn't get separation. And overall, there was just a lack of trust in that offense. There was nothing in sync. All he could do was rely on his incredible athleticism to get out of the pocket and make plays, which he quickly realized he was really, really good at. He almost broke the quarterback rushing record in his rookie season. That is not easy to do. It takes a very, very special athlete to be able to do that. He was basically running for his life the entirety of last year, which gave them the first overall pick. So we go to this offseason. Chicago realizes, hey, this guy's got some talent. He can run like crazy, and he's got a big arm, and, he can be that franchise quarterback if we surround him with the right pieces. So what do? They trade that first overall pick in what I thought was a brilliant move to bring in DJ Moore, who's a really, really good player. They already had Mooney in the building, who I think is a good wide receiver 2 and a really good wide receiver 3 if he's at that spot. And their O-line improved slightly, but it did improve. I think their O-line is now top 20 in the NFL, where it was closer to dead to last year. So the Bears made a commitment this offseason to improve their offensive weaponry, to see what they have in Justin Fields when he actually has, a team around him. And so far this year, he has been awful. There's a video going around of him in the pocket, there being both a 5-yard out route open for a first down and a touchdown up the seam wide open. And instead of hitting either of those, he decides to scramble down the middle and lose yardage, going right into a defensive tackle. He's not seeing the field very well. And overall, he's just not playing good football. But why? Why is he doing that? Well, I think at this point, he is so used to, in the NFL, having to use his athleticism to get out of trouble and make plays out of nothing because of his receivers not getting separation, that he's lost the mentality to stand in the pocket and make decisions. To be fair to him, I think I might lose that mentality too if I was getting crushed every single time I decided to sit in that pocket. I don't think he has the confidence to go through his progressions and trust his offensive personnel. Remember, this guy came out of Ohio State, one of the top recruiting universities in America. He was throwing to first-round picks everywhere. Chris Olave was there. I can't remember if he threw to Marvin Harrison at all, but you guys understand, Ohio State is raked with receiver talent. They might be wide receiver U. It's them and LSU and Alabama and those kind of schools competing for that. So he's not used to making lesser talent greater. So what his coaches are doing now that he's lost that in the pocket mentality is telling him exactly what to do. Hey, look at that safety. He's going to be dropping down, throw it over the top, or this linebacker likes to play in tight. So if you're able to hit that slant quicker, you can get it to the outside. Little things like that. And what that's doing is it's completely throwing him off his quarterback rhythm. It's making him play robotic, like exactly what he said in the quote. And that's not good for anybody. Some of the best quarterbacks of all time, like Manning and Marino, mentioned that early in their career, they were very handcuffed. You know, their coaches would tell them specifically what to look for, what progression to go through. And it would drive them crazy because that's their job. Their job as quarterbacks is to look at the defense and try to analyze what they're supposed to do. But when they're bottled down, it makes it seem as though the game is harder than it actually is. So Fields is in a tough spot right now because his pocket presence has been so shaken by his first couple years not being protected that he doesn't trust anybody. And that trust leads into him being coached a lot more harshly. I don't want to say harshly, but a lot more tight than most quarterbacks are. And he's not playing free and he's not playing well. But going back to the start, I don't think this is all Justin Fields' fault. They brought him in and said, here, you start as a rookie with this destitute of talent and we'll see what you do. He tried his best. He figured out a way that he could, keep drives alive and make plays. And that was with his legs. And he's gotten so used to that at this point that he can't stand in the pocket and go through his progressions without hearing footsteps and seeing ghosts. And it's unfortunate to see. And I think with an offensive head coach, this might not be a problem because you can coach him up a lot easier because you understand the position. Eberflus, their current head coach, I think is really good at his job, but he's on the wrong side of the ball. When you have a young quarterback, time and time again, it's been proven, if you got an offensive head coach, it makes it so much easier. Just look at Jordan Love now. Look at Tua with Mike McDaniels. Look at Lawrence with Doug Peterson. All of these young quarterbacks with offensive head coaches have become dynamos. With defensive head coaches, it's been a lot tougher. I don't think it's all Justin Fields' fault, but that's what he's going through right now. He's going through the process of seeing ghosts in the pocket and hearing footsteps when they're no longer there because that's what he's had to do his first few years in the NFL. And even now, I don't think he trusts his offensive personnel that much because it's still not even above league average. It's just better than it was last year. So Fields needs a new situation. I think he needs a breath of fresh air. I don't think everything that's happened is his fault, but if he wants to become a great NFL quarterback, he's going to have to learn to stand in that pocket, take his licks, and not bail out so quickly and rely on his athleticism because that's not what lasts in this league. We've seen that time and time again. So moving on to other destitute offenses, I wanted to talk about the Steelers and Matt Canada, who is their offensive coordinator, who the Steelers fans were chanting to be fired during their Monday night game against the Cleveland Browns. So I heard these chants, and offensive coordinator is obviously a really, really important position. We've seen what Ben Johnson has done for the Lions, and I just talked about how important offensive head coaches are. But I asked myself, is this guy really the problem? Because to me, the Steelers' offense has been kind of since the last few years of Big Ben, the last 3-4 years of Big Ben. So I looked at their personnel and I realized a couple things. First of all, Najee Harris is the closest thing we have seen to a first-round running back bust in a long time. He was taken high in the first, and to be totally honest with you, he's just not that guy. I think everyone saw that end around play where it looked like he was running in slow motion trying to reverse the field. And overall, he just doesn't have a lot of burst. He's strong enough that he can run down the middle, but he doesn't really take on tackles from the side that well. I don't think Harris is a great running back, which is unfortunate because they spent a lot of capital on him. Deontay Johnson is on IR. He's out at least 4 games. That's their guy, besides Pickens, who is supposed to be catching these passes from Pickett. He's been looking really, really good over the past couple of years, and he's just out now. So I'm sure that hurts the game plan as well. So their biggest problem, however, is their offensive line. And it feels like it's been that way for a long time, to me, in the back of my mind. So I decided to do some research and figure out exactly how long that's been. So I went to 2010. 2010 was the last year that they were in the Super Bowl. And I said, since then to now, where does their offensive line rank? So I went back. 30th ranked offensive line in 2010. 25th ranked offensive line in 2011. 25th ranked offensive line in 2012. 26th ranked offensive line in 2013. You get the idea. Since 2010, their offensive line has averaged being the 25th best offensive line in the NFL. That's where your offense starts. If you can't block up front, then you're not going to be able to make plays down the field. We saw that in the Steelers-Browns game. Pass rushes just annihilated the entire game. Made it boring, to be totally honest with you, because neither offense could move the ball because they couldn't block. I think the Steelers' issue isn't exactly Matt Canada. It's the fact that they haven't been able to get this offensive line right in so long. They hired a new GM in 2020, or 2022, apologies, Omar Khan. He's only had 1 year to really try to solve this, so I'm not going to give him much blame. But before that was Kevin Colbert as their GM. I think he did a really, really good job with the defense and establishing the culture, but he has not been able to build up that offensive line. And to be honest, since Antonio Brown, they haven't really had a game breaker at receiver. Deontay Johnson's really good, so is George Pickens, but they're not superstars. Is Matt Canada very good at his job? I don't think so. Is he the biggest problem for Pittsburgh's inability moving the ball? I don't think so. I think it's their personnel and their inability to get the guys up front who can make their offense operate at a high level. And to finish this off, I want to talk quickly about one of the dumbest debates or opinions I've heard in basketball. And for some reason, people accept it as common knowledge, and I just can't get behind it. So Kyrie Irving, another former NBA player, came out and said he is the most skilled NBA player of all time. He has the most pretty game of all time. And pretty and beautiful, I will give you. When you watch him on the court, he is majestic. The way he can get to his spot in the lane, his finishing ability, his handle is maybe the best of all time. But skilled is what really ticks me off, to be totally honest with you, because the 5 fundamental skills of basketball are shooting, passing, dribbling, rebounding, and defending. All right. Since high school, that's what you're taught. Those 5. So I'm just going to compare Kyrie Irving in his era to some of the other players here and see who is more skilled. Okay. So let's start with Steph. So like I said, shooting, passing, dribbling, rebounding, defending. Shooting, Steph and Kyrie. Steph, obviously, not close. Passing, Steph averages 6.5 assists for a career. Kyrie averages 5.7. Point Steph. Dribbling, I think it's a wash. We have seen Steph have some of the most incredible handles. You guys remember what he did against the Clippers, breaking Chris Paul or dribbling through those 4 guys and taking a step back 3, and Steve Kerr putting his hands on his head. Legendary handles, but I'll give that point to Kyrie. I think it's a wash, but fine. Rebounding, Steph averages 4.7 rebounds for a career. Kyrie averages 3.9, so give that point to Steph. And Steph is definitely the better defender, especially nowadays because he's bulked up a lot more. He's able to stay in front and, not get pushed around as much as he used to. So Steph's the better defender. 4-1, Steph to Kyrie. So in those parameters of the 5 fundamental skills, Steph beats Kyrie 4-1. Let's go on to Damian Lillard, a player who is not talked about nearly as much as Kyrie Irving in terms of skills and his basketball ability, but let's just look at it. So again, shooting, passing, dribbling, rebounding, defending. Shooting, Damian Lillard. I'll take him any day. He's a top 5 shooter of all time. Kyrie is not. From distance, from mid-range, I'm taking Dame as a shooter. 1-0. Passing, Dame's at 6.7 assists for a career. Again, Kyrie's at 5.7, so you give that point to Dame. Dribbling, I'm going to give this point to Kyrie. I think Dame's an unbelievable ball handler. Kyrie might be the best of all time in that department. Give that to Kyrie. Rebounding, Dame's at 4.2 rebounds for a career. Kyrie's at 3.9. Let's call that a wash. Okay, not much of a difference there. Neither one of them is exactly Dennis Rodman going for boards here. And defending. So this one's interesting because neither of them are phenomenal defenders, but Damian Lillard has a career defensive rating of 112.7, and Kyrie has a career rating of 110. So Dame has a slight edge there, but again, it's a wash. So if you want to call those 2 categories a wash, it's still 2-1 Dame in terms of those 5 fundamental skills. So saying Kyrie Irving is the most skilled basketball player of all time is simply a lie. That I haven't even compared him to LeBron, who is obviously a better passer, obviously a better rebounder, and obviously a better defender. So he takes that 3-2. Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, all of these guys are obviously more skilled than Kyrie Irving. So this whole narrative about skills and his beauty of his game, I totally understand that. But when we're talking about actual skills of basketball, Kyrie Irving isn't in the top 20. All right, so I am so sick of this debate. He is not the most skilled basketball player of all time, and we need to put this to rest immediately, or else people might actually start to believe it. And it's just not true. Anyways, thank you guys, as always, for listening. The Spit Show comes out every other day. I want to thank you all so much for the support. The shorts, the TikTok, it's all been going swimmingly well. I've been having so much fun making these episodes, and it's all your guys' support that makes it happen. So thank you so much, and I will see you in the next episode. Peace out.